You've probably heard of one of the most chilling and disturbing murder cases that took place in Brahmapuri, Meerut, India, a case that has shocked the entire world. It's the tragic story of Saurabh Rajput, a man who flew from London to India to celebrate his daughter's birthday, only to be murdered by his own wife, Muskan, and her lover, Sahil, and then horrifyingly dumped into a cement-filled drum. Welcome to my channel. This is Mahbooba, and today we're diving deep into the Muskan Rastogi murder case, also known as the Meerut murder mystery. To help you follow along easily, I've divided this video into several parts. Background information. Muskan's marriage. Muskan's affair. The murder plot. Post-murder actions. Arrest and investigation. Black magic and psychological manipulation. Public reaction. Let's begin with some background. There are three main characters at the heart of this case. Muskan Rastogi, the 26-year-old wife of the victim, now accused of his brutal murder. Saurabh Rajput, the 29-year-old husband who had been living and working in London since 2023. He came back to India to celebrate his daughter's birthday, a trip that would tragically become his last. Sahil, 28 years old, Muskan's childhood friend and former schoolmate. Their paths crossed again years later, and that's when everything started to spiral. Now let's dive into the details of Muskan's marriage. Muskan met Saurabh Rajput in 2016 when she was just 17 years old. What started as a young romance quickly turned into a serious relationship. The two began dating, fell in love, and eventually decided to get married. Muskan's parents accepted the marriage, but Saurabh's family was strongly against it. Despite his parents' disapproval, Saurabh stood by Muskan and went ahead with a court marriage. At the time, Saurabh was working in the merchant navy and lived with his parents, sister, and brother. Initially, after their marriage, Muskan and Saurabh stayed with his family. But due to Muskan's insistence, they later moved out and began living separately in a rented house in Brahmapuri, Meerut. Despite moving out, Saurabh maintained close ties with his parents. He would often visit them, and his mother regularly cooked meals for him, which he would bring home to share with Muskan and the family. In 2019, their daughter Pihu was born, and from the outside, they looked like a happy family living a peaceful life. But everything wasn't as it seemed. Behind the scenes, Muskan was living a double life. She was not the devoted wife she appeared to be. She was involved in affairs and engaged in questionable activities that would eventually lead to a horrific crime. Now let's talk about how Saurabh discovered Muskan's affair. Muskan was secretly involved in a romantic relationship with Sahil, a boy she had known since childhood. But who exactly is Sahil, and how did this relationship begin? Muskan and Sahil were classmates up to the 8th grade. Sahil dropped out after failing in 9th grade, and the two lost touch for several years. Then, in 2019, they reconnected during a school reunion. What started as a casual friendship quickly turned into something more. They grew close and eventually entered into a romantic relationship. What makes this even more shocking is that Muskan had already been married to Saurabh for 3 years and had a daughter, Pihu. Despite that, she chose to rekindle her bond with Sahil, ignoring the responsibilities she had toward her family. They started meeting frequently, and Sahil even began visiting Muskan at her home while Saurabh was away. It was later discovered that both Muskan and Sahil were involved in heavy drug use, consuming various kinds of substances together, which added another dangerous layer to their already toxic relationship. In 2021, the landlord of their rented house informed Saurabh about Muskan's affair. Devastated, Saurabh confronted her and expressed his desire to get a divorce. But Muskan begged for another chance and promised to cut all ties with Sahil. Her parents also stepped in and pleaded with Saurabh to forgive her, saying that mistakes happen in life. Since they had a daughter, Saurabh eventually gave in and decided to stay. In 2023, Saurabh moved to London in hopes of securing a better future for Muskan and their daughter. But while he was away working hard for his family, Muskan resumed her relationship with Sahil and returned to her old habits, including drug use. Despite the betrayal, Muskan acted completely normal with Saurabh during video calls. She would talk lovingly, show him their daughter, and pretend everything was fine. Although they had minor arguments now and then, Muskan always reassured Saurabh and told him he should trust her. Her attitude revealed a lot. In her bio, she had written, "Love myself. What the world thinks of me, I don't care. I'll do what I want, and nobody can stop me." This quote sums up her mindset. She showed no guilt, no remorse, and seemed proud of her actions. When someone doesn't acknowledge their wrongdoings or believe they need to change, it becomes nearly impossible to guide them in the right direction. The murder plot. Saurabh Rajput returned to India from London on February 24th, after 2 long years, to celebrate his daughter's birthday and reunite with his wife, Muskan. On February 25th, the family held a small party for their daughter, a celebration that looked picture perfect. In the video clip you're watching now, you can see what appears to be a happy family, dancing, smiling, and celebrating like nothing was wrong. But behind those smiles was a horrifying plan already in motion. Muskan, along with her boyfriend Sahil, was plotting Saurabh's murder. Maybe she believed that as long as Saurabh was in her life, she wouldn't be able to freely do drugs, see Sahil, or live the reckless lifestyle she wanted. Reports even suggest that Saurabh was planning to take Muskan and their daughter back to London permanently, something Muskan was completely against because she didn't want to leave Sahil behind. But no matter the reason, nothing justifies murder, especially something so brutal and cold-hearted. It's almost as if she had no soul, a devil in disguise. According to the investigation, on March 3rd, when their daughter Pihu was off from school, Muskan dropped her at her parents' house, telling them they were going on a short vacation. She then used Saurabh's phone to text his family, saying he was out of town for a few days. That night, Muskan mixed sedatives into Saurabh's food, and once he was unconscious, she stabbed him in the heart 3 times. After that, she called Sahil, who came over and helped her cut Saurabh's body into pieces. Hay then placed his remains in a drum and filled it with cement to cover up the crime. This wasn't just a murder, it was monstrous. Post-murder actions. You'd think someone who just committed such a horrific act would hide, run, or at least feel guilty. But no, Muskan and Sahil went on a vacation to Shimla just days later. This video clip, dated March 11th, 2025, exactly 8 days after the murder, shows them celebrating Sahil's birthday, partying and dancing in clubs, and enjoying life like nothing had ever happened. Can you imagine? She had just murdered her husband and was now celebrating a vacation with her boyfriend, smiling for selfies and dancing in clubs. It's beyond cruel. It's inhuman. But their lies began to unravel. The landlord of the rented house called Muskan and asked her to vacate the place because he had planned some renovations. Muskan lied, again, just as she had lied to her mother and Saurabh's family. She said they were on vacation and would vacate the house once they were back. Eventually, Muskan ran out of money, and perhaps the weight of her guilt became too heavy. She broke down in front of her mother, crying, and confessed the entire crime. Her parents were completely devastated. They couldn't believe what their daughter had done. But instead of protecting her, they did the right thing. They went straight to the police and filed a complaint against their own daughter. Thank you for watching. Hit the like button for part 2. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel.